What's going on, guys? This is Ethan, the Games Adjuster, and today we are talking about the 1 to 4 player game Duffers. So, Duffers is a golf themed deck building game. Kind of a weird combination of mechanism and theme. Although I will say deck building is probably like the universal. If you don't know what to do with an IP or a theme, try deck builder. I am a kind of a gamer that's a little bit of a sports nerd as well. I do love to watch pro sports, football being my favorite. I'm not a huge golf fan as far as spectator, but I do enjoy going out to local pitch and putt, smaller parks, or gone golfing on a couple of occasions. I do like going to Top Golf, things like that. So when I saw this game, it's one of the few sports I don't have in my collection. I've got baseball highlights and football games and just back to soccer game 11 for Portal, but golf is one I didn't have. So I was very interested in it. I saw it at my local game store. It was pretty cheap. It was like 25 bucks or something. So thought I'd give it a go. Let me show you how it plays. We'll go down to the table real quickly. I'll show you how to store it away, at least how I do, and we'll come back here for some final thoughts. So here we go. Okay, to set up the game, players will first decide on the number of holes that they are going to play. The regular game is going to be 9 holes. So here we've got the B card set out. There's 9 of them here. But you could play a very beginner game of only 3 holes, or you could play like an easier game of 6 holes. Along with that, each player is going to get one of these caddy cards. I'll show it down here. The caddy cards are where you're going to house your player deck, some of the special abilities you'll gain throughout the game, and you'll have your tokens to mark on the holes that you complete. I'll bring one of these in here closer. Each caddy card has a place for your deck here. The tokens, as you place more tokens out, you'll place them from left to right onto the holes on the main board. But every time you get to one of these lettered spaces, you will unlock one of these special abilities here. This game is unique in that when you play cards from your hand, you can place a card on your caddy and save it there. And then as you progress throughout the game here, when you get to C, you can place up to 2 cards on your caddy space, which is very cool. The basic game is a deck builder, but it's a themed deck builder that I think it works out really well. So after you set up the holes, you'll set some of these basic cards like most deck builders here. There's some cards that are always available until they're all gone. You've got a 3 putter card. A lot of cards in the deck are cards like this, which are considered club cards. This one here costs 50 credits to buy. It will give you 25 credits should you choose to use it in the pro shop in a later hand. It will not give you any yardage towards the hole, but it counts as 3 strokes. This is a putt card. Now, putt cards are important in this game. You are trying to complete a hand of cards such that you can equal or exceed the yardage on the hole. So here it turns reach. It's 390 yards. You try to play enough cards that you can equal or exceed that amount by 50 or less. So exceeding by 30, 40, that's totally fine. If you exceed that hole by 55 or anything over 50 basically, then you cannot complete it. All right. But even if you have all the yardage right, you cannot complete that card, that hole, unless you have a putter. So some of these basic putters add a lot of strokes, which aren't good. Here, low score is better, but they're available readily at the beginning of the game. Some of the other cards that are available here are this Broken Tee, for example. This is an equipment card. There are more of those in the pro shop. This one here adds 10 yards, does not give you any stroke, only counts as 10 credits when it comes up, but for every 2 of these at the end of the game, you'll get to subtract 1 stroke. Basically, you'll take off 1 point, and again, lower points wins. Some of the other cards you'll have, this is another club card. This is always available too, but this is a wood. So you'll notice the club putter, there are club irons. This is a wood. And so this particular card gives you a lot of yardage, 165 yards, counts as 1 stroke, will give you 50 credits when used in the pro shop. But when this card is played for yardage to successfully complete a hole, you will trash it at the end of the game. Similar to most deck builders, when you gain cards either from the display here or through different means, they will go into your discard pile. When you trash cards, they are completely removed from the game. Okay, so you'll set all that out. You'll have a deck of luck cards here. This game does rely on some luck, just like golf, and so we will have these available as well. And then we'll also have a deck of duffs, which is the name of the game here, duffers, which are usually bad things. So here we can hook the ball, well, it just loses 30 yards to our total yardage. we towed the ball, we sliced the ball. And there are those three kinds here shuffled up together. And in your starting player deck, you will actually have three of them as well. So here we've got three whiffs, which basically just add a stroke and don't subtract any yardage. And then you've got 7 of these chip shot club iron cards, each of which give you 30 yards, 1 stroke, and count 20 credits towards the purchase of new cards. Okay, so you'll shuffle all that up, you'll set that out, you will put your holes out. On each hole you will place one of the top cards from the pro shop. It does recommend for your first few games that you place out some of these star cards. So here, for example, is a 9 iron. This has a star on it next to the name. And these will be at the top of the deck and be the first available cards out here on these holes. But as you progress throughout the game, you'll get into some of the better cards. These are kind of more beginner cards. As you get more experience with the game, you can just shuffle those in like normal and put out a regular set of cards on these different holes. The number of cards you'll place out on the different holes is going to be the number of players minus 1. So here, if I was to simulate a 2-player game, there would only be, of course, 1 card on each hole. In addition to that, at the very top, you'll notice I have a display of 5 cards. Again, like most deck builders, there will be a display that players can buy new cards from. There is a rule in the game you can optionally play with if the players agree, such that if 3 turns pass, 3 players take their turns, and nothing is purchased, you can wipe the display, trash those cards, removing them from the game, and then place out 5 new cards. All right, and so when you play your turn, there's a nice little reference sheet. It does have one typo on it. I'll address that when we get there. But it breaks down basically what you can do. So on your turn, you're going to draw 5 cards, and then you can, if you have any crew cards in the game, there are some crew cards. I'll show you some of those here in a bit. But basically, the crew cards are kind of ongoing permanent abilities you'll set in front of yourself. If you have any of those, you can activate them. But after you look at your hand, you can either attempt to complete a hole, or you can make purchases from the pro shop, or do any combination of both in any order. Okay, this cycle, the pro shop display, this is actually a typo. This was in an original rule set. It's no longer in the game, so you can disregard that. But after you choose one of these 2 things to do, or both, you will end your turn by putting all played and unplayed cards in your discard pile, or optionally one on your caddy mat, and draw a new hand of 5. And then, of course, replenish the display here. It only replenishes back to 5 when your turn is over. So let's just play through a turn and kind of see what this would look like. So I'll draw 5 cards from my player deck, and we'll take a look. So we've got 2 whiffs and 3 chip shots. So if I add the chip shots together, that's only 90 yards. The lowest hole here, you'll notice, is up here at 130. Not going to be able to do any of these holes, so I'll just play the whiffs down. I can't do anything with that. And I'm going to take the 60 credits, 20, 40, 60, to buy a new card. So I might go ahead and buy this 9 iron here, which costs 60, and it's 100 yards, 1 stroke, 30 credits. All right, and that ends my turn. And then the next player would go, and before they go, we would replenish this. And it comes back to me, and now, of course, I would have 1 duff card left because I started with 3 and 7 of the chip shots. And so I would say, okay, I still can't complete a hole. I don't have a putter anyway, so let's go ahead and put that down. And I've got 80 credits. Let's buy a putter. Wouldn't you look at that? We got a regulation putter here for 75. The 5 I did not spend is lost, so this is a little bit better than the 50 credit here because this is 3 strokes. Doesn't add any yardage, but it actually only counts as 2 strokes, which is a little bit better. So we'll add that. And then we replenish, and it goes back to the other player. And then it comes back to me. I have no cards, so I would have had to shuffle and redraw. So let's just make a nice little hand here. We'll kind of cheat a little bit just to play out at least 1 hole. All right. So let's say I shuffled completely randomly, and this is what I drew. All right, so we got my putter in, I've got the 9 iron, and I've got a chip shot. Great. And I've got 1 duff card. So anytime you have a duff card in your hand and you're trying to complete a hole, you have to play that duff. So I'll play this first. So that's 1 stroke. You'll announce actually on the back of this card, it does walk you through the steps here. So first thing we'll do is declare that we're going to attempt a hole. You need not choose which one. And you'll play your card for yardage, adding up their distance and strokes. Follow any of the instructions, and then play any duff cards you need to, play a putter card, and then as long as you meet the criteria, you can place one of your tokens. So we'll just target the first one here. Don't have to make that declaration yet, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to complete a hole, so we'll play our duff card. We're going to play this 9-iron here, so that's 100 yards plus 1 stroke. We'll play the chip shot, that's another 30, so that's another stroke. So we've met 130. All we need now is a putter, and we've done that. So we'll add up the strokes. We need not spend this for more yardage. We can just save that for the credits. The ones that we played, though, we'll have 1 stroke, 2 strokes, 3 strokes, 4, 5 strokes on beginner's luck, the first hole, and we would mark that on this score pad. So we'd get the score pad here, write the player's name or color. Here I'm the red player, so I put it on number 2. I'd put 5 in the first hole. And after I've done that, I would get to place one of my tokens here, the first one from the furthest left, in the appropriate spot. And if you're the first one to do it, or not the last one really, you always get one of these cards, and these are randomly set out beginning of the game, excuse me. This is one of the other cards you can get is like equipment. This is a lucky hat. This one says play special ability to draw a card, then reveal and play a luck card. So we'll gain that, put that in our deck. Now, anytime you meet the yardage requirement exactly, then you will get a bullseye bonus and get to trash any one card out of your hand, deck, or discard pile. So here I might have gone ahead and chosen to trash this whiff card, so I won't be adding unnecessary strokes to my game. And then again, the next player would go, or before that I could spend this for something. It's only 20, so nothing I could buy, but later in the game you might have better cards. Now, some of these holes, like I'll show you here on beginner's luck, will have some additional requirements. So this one here says wood cards cannot be used to complete this hole. So later, if I had used like a 3-wood or something like that, or tried to, or this vintage driver, you'll notice again says club wood, this would not be a valid card I could use for this particular hole. The same is true at pumpkin patch. Other holes, like in this A group, says no chip shots can be used to complete this hole. Woods can't be used. A hook or slice card adds a stroke in addition to the yardage change. Requires at least 1 club card with yardage between 90 and 130. There's all kinds of other ones. Hook cards do not subtract yardage on this hole. That's pretty good. There's a large bank there, so you kind of want it to hook. Windmill here, you'll see the wind, minus 20 yards to all wood cards and minus 10 to all iron. So you kind of want to take the air out of the ball on this particular hole. And so there's quite a few different things. They're not that extreme of differences, but there is some variety there if you want to mix and match those in instead of playing with the full set of Bs or full sets of As. All right, and so that's pretty much it. If you had exceeded by less than 50, you could still complete the hole, but you would not get a bullseye bonus. And so the next thing I want to talk about is some of these other cards and their effects. And so you'll notice on some of these clubs that they might have like a horseshoe in here, and still others will have maybe a lightning bolt. So let's find one here, like this big head driver. So what do these mean? Well, I showed you on the reference card, it says order matters when you're playing your cards, and that's 100% true, because you'll notice this horseshoe is considerate of the luck deck. So reveal the top luck card and play it immediately when this card is played for yardage. So if I'm using for credits, don't have to worry about that, but if I'm playing for yardage, this is the first thing. So let's say we were going to replay that hole. Well, here's 90, so I'll play that down. I have to go to the luck deck and see what happens. Here, I've got a lucky break. I can trash a card from my hand or discard pile. Great. I might have trashed that whiff card that I drew and gotten rid of that. I think I already trashed it, but if I still had it, I would trash that out, and it would not count as one of the strokes against me. And then I could continue playing. So if this was the rest of my hand, let's say that was one of the 5 cards of the other 4, I might go ahead and play, I didn't have a lucky hat. So yep, we're going to play this chip shot and this chip shot. That puts us at 120, 150, and the putter. And it ends up being 5 again anyways, but that might be something else we could do. Now, in this case, again, I would not get the bullseye bonus. Now, not all luck cards are as nice. Some of them are bad luck, so goose egg here. When reveal, play immediately. Double the effect of the duff cards in your hand until the end of the turn. Or bad luck here, recalled. Return a Pro Shop card from your hand to the display. Any club, equipment, or crew card you gain from the Pro Shop deck qualifies. Not good. And then, of course, there's some nice, really lucky ones, though. Plus 50 yards until the end of your turn. So this will add some variety. And this is pretty thematic, actually, because if you've ever played golf or even gone to like something like Top Golf, unless you're a professional, sometimes things happen. The wind gusts a certain way, you turn your body a certain way, the ball gets a little unpredictable at those times, you don't get a favorable bounce, there's just some bad luck. That's part of the game. That's par for the course, as it were. So let's see what else. So let's talk a little bit about the duff card. So I showed you the luck cards. This lightning bolt is a duff card. And these basically will just add more duffs to your hand. So this one here, really good for yardage. It is a wood. It gains a duff card when this card is played. So I play this for its yards, 300 yards, but immediately I'll consult this deck, draw a card, add that to my discard pile to be shuffled in later. Any duff cards in your hand, again, that you use when you're trying to play for yardage will need to be played. They cannot be ignored. If you're playing for credits, they can't be ignored. Now, you can buy as many cards as you want to on any one turn from the Pro Shop, but you can only complete one hole per turn. So even if you would have multiple putters and multiple cards to meet multiple yardage on different holes, you can only do one of them at a time. However, the nice part about this is, again, this caddy card. This caddy card will let you save cards on it. So if I drew my putter again, but I did not yet have the yardage, I might, instead of using it for credits, go ahead and save that there, draw my next hand of 5, and then when I go to play again, I will actually treat that as part of my hand, so I'll effectively have 6 cards. And again, there are some special abilities you can unlock. So the first one is, once you unlock the first hole, a player may trash one of their chip shot cards, remove it from the game to get double the amount of credits on their turn. So 1 per turn, but I could turn this 20 credits into 40 and streamline my deck. When they get to B, after their third hole, you can, when purchasing a card, if this is empty, may place it on this card immediately. So it basically goes immediately to your hand or the top of your deck, however you want to look at it, instead of having to wait until you recycle your deck. And then the last ability after the 6th hole is you can actually place 2 cards on here instead of 1. So as you get more proficient and you get some of these big head drivers or this gimme putt, gimme putt's one of the better putters in the game here, it only counts as 1 stroke, then you can start saving those and be better equipped to handle these holes. And there are all kinds of sorts of abilities. I'll show you a few more here. So the Miracle 9 iron is an iron. Some effects will pertain to that, but it also counts as a putt card. Any card that has this little P on it can be used as a putter. And this one also gets you yard. You're basically kind of chipping it in outside the green into the hole, and it counts as 2 strokes, but it's pretty good. You don't have to get another putter, and it's good for the yardage. What else here? Let's talk about some of these crew cards. So here, example of a crew card. They have these kind of maroon or purple banners. The groundskeeper here, kind of expensive, 120, but it's when played, stays on the course, so you'll always have this in front of you. And once per turn, discard a club card to reveal the top card of target opponent's deck. Play the reveal card as though it was in your hand until the end of the turn. And that is good and bad, because even if it's a duff card, you still have to take it. So it's a little risky. But there are some other ones that are pretty cool. Like there's a putt guru, I believe. He treats all of your putters like they're the gimme putter, which is basically just a 1 stroke. So you can buy a bunch of the cheap ones and be really good with that. But of course, he's very expensive at 180. So it might cost you a few turns to build enough cards to get a nice hand to be able to buy him, because credits don't carry over from round to round. And that's pretty much it. So the holes will get larger. You'll need more cards to complete them. The last hole in the B deck is 510. The last hole in the A deck is actually 630 yards, quite a big one. But the yardage of a player's first club to complete this hole is doubled. So it's not as difficult as it seems. You can see here like a large stroke or a large fairway. And these pictures are actually really cool. It's aggressively green, but I think that's kind of, again, par for the course. That's kind of how these golf courses are, most of them. So I think that's it. There are some variants you can play. So there is one where you can get some initial money, like 200 credits, to buy some things from the shop, starting with the last player going to the first player. You can do it such that everybody gets 3 cards and they can keep one of them to add to their deck and trash another card. There's a few different ways you can play. You can play without the luck cards, just straight golf. You can play 3 holes, 6 holes, 9 holes, mix and match the holes. There's a few different ways you can do things. The game will end as soon as one player completes all 9 holes, or as many holes as you're playing, in which case every other player gets one more turn, and after that the game will end, and then their strokes on any holes they did not complete would be 2 times par. So here on this hole, Descent into Madness, par would be 5. So if you did not complete this hole at the end of the game, it would be 10 strokes. And then the other way the game could end is if the players go entirely through the Pro Shop deck, this deck here, and you cannot refill the display, then the game will end at the end of, I think the game ends immediately in that case. I'll check here. Yeah, the game ends immediately if there are no additional turns or purchases possible. All right, and so that's it. Well, let's talk storage, and then I'll come back with some final thoughts. Okay, let's briefly talk storage. The game does come in a kind of small box. I don't know that there's room for expansions. I don't think they're coming out with any. I believe the game came out off a Kickstarter in 2019, and just recently got a chance to get it. Or maybe that's when it was first thought of, and it just came out through backers. I'm not really sure, but I just recently saw it on my friendly local game store website, and so that's why I got it. But the game's kind of small, and it does come with a plastic insert. I did throw the insert away. It was nice. It was pretty good if you're not going to sleeve your cards. I'm not a big sleever myself, but this is a deck building game. And with deck building games, there's a lot of shuffling. So this is like the few exceptions I will make to the sleeving. Again, I'm not a religious sleever by any means, but when it comes to deck building, I make an exception because of the shuffling. I do find that sleeving the cards does make it a little bit easier because you can simply just take the cards and kind of slide them in between each other like that and get a decent shuffle, along with doing your bridge and whatever else you want to do. So enough of the rambling. Let's talk storage. You'll take your caddy cards, at least I do. There's 4 players. This game does play 1 to 4 players. The solo mode is a little bit different. It's more like Solitaire or Klondike. I've not tried that. The 18 hole cards come in this little bag here. It's a little cheap. It's already kind of ripped, but I kept them in here as a little bit of protection. Put that in there. The Pro Shop deck, I do keep unbagged. I'll just set those out because they are sleeved anyways and try to cut the deck as evenly as I can. And then I've got all the stat cards, the 3 basic cards that you always begin the game with: the putter, the vintage driver, and the broken tees all together. The Duff and Luck cards back to back all together. Then the starting player cards, reference cards, and their 9 chits here all together. Spread those out as evenly as you can. And then finally, you've got the rule book. It's a pretty good rule book. It's got good explanation of what the different terms are: equipment, lucky breaks, permanent, strokes, etc. A few examples, and then there's some variants here for different ways to play. And then there's a solo mode setup, and you can see it's slightly different. But you'll put that on top with the score pad, and you'll track your scores here, just writing the number of strokes, subtotaling. You'll get some bonuses from those tees, and then your final score. Look at me, 37, yay! Second game. It's really good recently anyways. 23, ooh, 55, not good. So you'll put that in here, and there you go. That's how you store Duffers. Cute little squirrel on the front. Let's go up top and let's talk about it. Okay, there you go. So let's talk about it. We'll start with the theme. I think the theme is great. So it's a deck building game, which kind of sounds like it wouldn't work, or it's just kind of a lazy usage of a mechanism with the theme. But here, it just really works well together because obviously when you start, not really when you start in golfing, but in the theme of the game, you start the game with some really poor clubs. Maybe you think of this like a career, but you have some really bad clubs. You don't even have a putter. You're just getting started. So you've got to build your deck, your bag of clubs, to have some better equipment. And of course, the best clubs, like the best putter, for example, that only gives you one stroke, or the big drivers that give you one stroke for like 300 yards, they're pretty expensive in real life. Some of the nicer stuff is. So you have to spend money for that. The equipment is somewhat thematic. You've got a rangefinder, helps you get different cards from your deck, or you've got this vintage driver. It's vintage wood driver because there's a chance that when you use it, it could break because it's old and literally made of wood, which not all woods are. So, well, that's a whole different thing. But anyways, really cool. I love that you can't just chip the ball into the hole. Once you get to the green, you need a putter. So you hear in the game, you can't complete the hole unless you have a putter. Or in certain course holes, there is a chance that you can't use a wood, or slices don't count against you, or hooks don't count against you for whatever reason, or the woods and irons lose yardage because they're going into the wind, just like in real golf. And so I think the mechanisms of deck building by itself, if you look at it on its own, no, that's not thematic. But how they integrate it with the luck deck, duff cards, sometimes you're going to take a bad swing and you're going to toe it, or you're going to hook it or slice it. I think that's very thematic. It's not every time. If you do a good job of calling your deck, being better at practicing, just like in real life, less chance you're going to do that. If you keep some of the bad habits, just like in real life, you're going to have more of those bad strokes, right? So I think it's really, really thematic. And then the production helps with that. So I mentioned in the overview, it's aggressively green. And that's true. My sister-in-law at the table mentioned it's really, really green, and it is. There's actually a play mat that's also very green. I don't have the play mat. It's like another 15 to 20 bucks. It's not necessary. Would be cool to have. It does have the bullseye bonus explained on there. It's not on the reference card. And it's just a spot to hold everything. But I've got the game table. I've already got a play mat, so I really don't need it. But if you're interested in it, check it out. But yeah, beyond it being aggressively green, everything's great. I sleeve my cards, as I mentioned, because it's a deck building game, a lot of shuffling, but the card quality is good. You don't have to do that unless you're playing it every day. I'm sure it would hold up fine, but if you're a deck builder, if you like playing deck building games, I imagine you're probably sleeving them anyways. The golf cards the course cards have really nice artwork. I love the way they look. They kind of tie in again with the conditions that they have. You can see the wind on the one that loses yardage. You can see how the course kind of hooks to the left on the one that doesn't count hooks against you. That's a great touch. I like the artwork on the people. It's kind of fun. You can see here, good little diversity there. They're funny. There's like a gym goer, and she's like this girl picking up a barbell for whatever reason. There is the guru who's kind of floating in the air, the putt guru. It's just fun. The animals, even there's like a bird that's picking up the golf ball, or like a rainbow, and some of the lucky breaks, or the bad breaks would be like the squirrel who takes your ball. So I'm sure it's happened to somebody out there. I'm sure there's probably a YouTube video of people, real professional golfers who've hit a ball into the rough and some kind of animal scooped it up, or critter scooped it up, and it's just fun and silly, and I like it. There is a lot of the same club basically pictured with different names, 3-iron or 7-iron, 9-iron, whatever. Some of them have the lightning bolt, some don't. You might see a 7-iron, exact same picture, exact same name, except one's got the lightning bolt, one doesn't, and one doesn't, and it's a little bit cheaper. So I don't know. I don't really mind that it's not that different, honestly, because ultimately they're golf clubs. Maybe you could have put like a different like stem on the golf club, I guess, or different handle, but it's really not a big deal. I think most of the time you're just looking at the numbers and stuff anyways. You don't really care about that. And I think the graphic design on that is really good. It's really clear what the strokes are, what the yardage is, what they're worth on credits. And it's easy to count all that. So great job production-wise. For such a small box, I think it's got a lot of good stuff in it. The only thing I will say getting into rules as far as production miss also is they did have that one rule on the reference card that is not accurate. It's not in the rule book anymore. And if you know, unless you go in the forums, you won't find it and see that correction. Also, I feel like not having the bullseye bonus mentioned anywhere on that reference card is also a miss. That's really important. It should have been on there. But other than that, I think the rules are pretty easy. It's not very hard. I like that you can purchase first. You can uh, complete a hole first. Either one. You could do it whichever way you like to. You don't have to pick the hole right away. You can play your cards out, see what the luck deals you, and then adjust from there. Maybe I was going to go for this 300-yard hole. Luck cost me 50 yards. I'll just go for the one that's 260. I still have enough. Or, ooh, I was going to go for the 260, but now I can go for the 300. And the cards explain all of that very clearly. So rules-wise, I don't think you're going to get caught up with anything. Now, gameplay-wise, also super plus. The theme helps with this. The biggest thing I like about this, most unique thing, at least I've seen, is unlike most deck builders, it's not you use it or you lose it. Here you have your caddy. So you can say, yeah, I'm gonna save this putter for when I get a little bit closer, or when I get a better hand, or I'll say, ooh, I have this driver, just completed this hole, I really want to complete another hole next turn. I have this card that's going to let me draw another card, and maybe I can get that putter I put in from just gaining it. So I'll put my big head driver on the caddy, and I'll save that, and then hopefully next turn I'll be able to use it with that putter I just bought if I shuffle it and get lucky. So I love that you can save cards, and I love that you get more abilities the more holes you complete. So that first hole, yeah, it's going to be a little tough. You have a really poor hand. You don't even have a putter. But once you get going, you do a few holes, you can start trashing the cards from your hand, getting more credits to buy bigger cards, streamlining your deck somewhat, trying to go for those bullseye bonuses and getting more cards out of your deck, and then trying to get some of those crew members too to maybe make you a little more unique and powerful compared to the other players. And it's just great. I really, really enjoy the gameplay on this one. The biggest con for gameplay is going to be the math. There is a lot of math in this game. It's not hard math. It's basic arithmetic with two-digit, three-digit numbers. But if you have players who don't like math, they are not going to enjoy this game, and I saw that firsthand. So, not necessarily that they don't like deck builders, maybe, or the theme, or the production, or anything else. It's just the math. It's a lot of it, and even for me, I think I'm pretty good at math. Sometimes it helps just to get a calculator out to check myself if I'm getting a lot of numbers crossed together and I want to make sure I'm going to meet this hole. You may not need that. I didn't need it all the time, but some players really felt more comfortable with that, and that's fine. So just be aware of that. I would say if you don't like math, and if you don't like games like Power Grid or any kind of economic game, that's not the same thing. But if the reason you don't like those is because you're doing a lot of arithmetic and adding and subtracting and stuff, you're going to hate this. That's just the truth of it, because there's a lot between adding the yardage for your holes, as well as adding the yardage or the credits for purchasing, or if I save this card for the caddy card, will I have enough yardage if I get this other card in my deck? All that is going to be kind of a hindrance to your enjoyment if you just don't like adding or subtracting. So there is that. Also, the game can be pretty lucky. So I don't mind that because it's a deck building game. It's not a game where, it's not a heavy economic game in the sense that there's no luck in the game like a 18xx or something. That I know what I'm getting into. There's no luck. It's going to be me versus the other players. The only luck is who goes first. In this game, there's going to be a ton of luck in the hand you're drawing, the cards that are available when it's your turn, which holes people complete before you do. In a two-player game, you have to get some of those holes early because you're going to get free cards for getting them before the other player. If you're always behind the other player, you're not going to get anywhere ahead of them because some of those cards that are just randomly put out could be really, really powerful, which is also lucky in itself, right? Because you might complete 3 holes and get a bunch of mediocre cards. Someone completes 1 hole and gets the putt guru. If you play just randomly with none of the star cards on, preset on the top of the deck, that could happen. And the putt guru is pretty powerful. There's some other play like the trainer, I think, gives you plus 10 yards to every card, including putters, so that's pretty powerful too. Whether you get those or not could definitely affect who wins the game, but I don't think it's that dramatic. If everybody's playing at the same level, then they'll get some of the highs just like you'll get some of the lows and vice versa. I think it pretty much evens out. But it is possible if someone gets extremely lucky, even with the luck deck too, you play those cards and every time you play, you get to lose a stroke or get a hole in one or something by trashing 2 cards, and everybody else gets duff cards and minus 50 or trash their hand and get a new hand, then yeah, obviously you're probably going to do much better than them, just purely on luck. So it goes both ways. I don't know. I like to think that just the better player wins, but I don't know. I haven't played it enough times to say for sure, but there is a lot of luck, so be aware. One thing I didn't mention, I'll mention now, is unlike regular golf, you don't have to go in order in this game either. So it's important to know that you don't have to go 1 through 9 on the holes. You can do 7, then do 2, then do 9, then do 3, whatever order you want is up to you. So I like that too. Now going into time, I would say it's kind of a longer game, especially if you play 9 holes. Now I would not suggest playing 18. I don't think you could even do that. I think the deck would probably run out before then. But 9 is kind of long, especially at 4 players. At 2 players, I'd say 9 takes like an hour, so it's really not that bad. But if you're playing this 3 or 4 players, you may want to stick to like the 6-hole game, which I don't know, it may be a little less fulfilling because your deck's not going to be as good as it would be in like a 2-player game. But if you're looking to save some time, that's the way to go. The box does say 60 to 90 minutes, and I think, yeah, it's a good range from 2 to 4. And even at 4, it might even be closer to like hour and a half to 2 hours, because there can be some AP, and not necessarily because you have paralyzing decisions, more so you're just trying to get your math right. So be aware. And then the last thing is variety. And so I would say the variety overall is pretty decent. You know what you're getting here. There's not a whole lot to discover on each play. You could play 2 games and pretty much see everything, because you'll see all the A cards, all the B cards, and then you'll pretty confidently, I could say, go through the deck enough that you would see of every card. Maybe you miss a couple, but they're not that much different from each other than like the crew cards are all unique. The equipment cards are all unique except for the starting ones. But the other clubs, there's a few unique ones, but most of them are just different riffs of the same one, just a few different copies. So in that sense, there's not a lot to discover from game to game, but I think the variety is going to come in how your game goes, because you might get a really big driver early in the game. In this particular game, you're going for the long ball, big holes first, and getting some of those pro shop cards, and then coming back and getting the little ones. Or vice versa. You get a really good putter early on. You're just trying to knock out some of these smaller holes, get some of the freebie cards, and then you'll build up to the big ones later on. And then also which holes are in the game. Depending on the course that you build, that could vary. Maybe this course I can't really use that many woods. I have to use some of the irons and other ways to get the yardage, versus in another course, it's a free-for-all. I can just use whatever I want. And then there are those variants where you can play a kind of a pre-deck building before the game to set up your hand a little better, or play without the luck if you want to take that out and just purely hand management of which cards are best and just buying the best stuff to streamline my deck. You take out the equipment, you take out everything, just play with the clubs if you want. So there's a few different ways you can play. It's not endless. I'm not aware of any expansions. I doubt there's any on the horizon. This is pretty much it. But I would say it's average variety. It's pretty good, just not amazing. So with all that said, I really enjoy this game. I have Legendary. I've got Legendary Buffy and Legendary James Bond, Mrs. and mine, respectively. I do love James Bond as a theme. If you saw my top 100, it was, I think, the top 20s or 30s. Really enjoy it. But the theme really carries it there. And it's a kind of a cooperative game. So this is a competitive deck building game, which I played some of those too. I played a lot of Clank, and I really like that one too. But right now, I don't know. I think this is probably my favorite, because I don't mind the math. I enjoy that. I like kind of puzzling out how much I can spend on what clubs and what clubs I need to go for and which card should I save over from round to round, which hole should I go for. When you're playing with multiple players, by the way, you don't take the top card from the hole. You can actually look at them and then decide which one you want to keep. So that's cool. I just really enjoy it. I think, I've only played it a handful of times now, but every time I've really enjoyed it. So it does have some flaws, right? There's not a ton of variety. It's aggressively green, so some people may not like that. It's got a lot of math, so the time can bog down a little bit, and it's pretty lucky. But with all that said, I still really enjoy it. So I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10 right now. Could go up, could stay where it's at. I don't see it really going down. It's a game I really do enjoy. I think it's a good marriage of theme and mechanisms. Really fun. If you're a golf fan, you probably really need to check it out. It's probably one of the better golf games. I haven't played too many, but I got to think this is up there. If you are a deck building fan, still think it's worth your time because it's a unique mechanism, and I love that you can save cards from game to game. And if you're a sports fan, if you're just looking to build out your collection of sports games, you've got boxing, you've got football, baseball, you don't have golf, this is the one. So there you go. That's my thoughts on it. If you played Duffers, let me know what you thought of it. If you have played other golf-themed games, let me know which ones are out there. Maybe I can check one of those out. If there's another favorite sport-themed game that you would suggest adding to the collection, maybe a basketball-themed one. I don't have one of those. Share that in the comments as well. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you on the next one.